squad, as well as Psycop, the IGL, former Le Cite de France King, picks up 2 young goats in YOLO. I'm excited to see what this squad can do. 17, 18-year-old mouse and keyboard player and controller player are the 2 additional members of this roster. Game Ward and France back on top for France. We haven't seen a top French team since Le Cite de France. Can this team be the squad that the French have been hopeful for?
Oh, you would hope so, for sure. And I think another team that I'm certainly keeping my eyes on this week is Gaming Gladiators, right? That lineup, former Gambit lineup, everybody expected them coming back together to be able to recreate that amazing consistency that we've seen from them, but it was a disappointing week number 1. You have to say they finished down in 16th place, which for them is straight up unacceptable. They know that themselves, and I'm sure today they're going to come out swinging.
That's a great point. And then there's FUT Esports, right? In a similar category as Gaimin, right? Gaimin, formerly FA Kitties, dominant alongside Alliance, but both of those teams underperformed in day number 1. So Alliance will not be playing today. They're in Group B, but can Gaimin bring it back and showcase that their dynasty still reigns supreme? And in a similar category is FUT Esports. Taylor Noth played with Pierre for the longest time. Big roster change, and obviously it was a heartbreaking roster change for the longest lasting team in EU. Kuya takes the spot of Pia, and since then, they've been a little bit of a roller coaster. Really high highs, but low lows as well. I want to see some more consistency out of FUT Esports. They're going to drop in Lava City over in World's Edge. I'm excited to see what they can do as we jump in to game number 1. The dropship is flying across Thorn Point. Blow it up in the chat. Let us know who you want to win. Kansas City Pioneers, will they continue to reign supreme, or will we see Gaimin bounce back, or maybe some of the young guns, the new heroes in VZD, Game Ward, or the 3 Muppets? We'll find out. Mark, game number 1 is here.
Here we go then. Let's get into it. It's been a long time coming. I've got to say, I feel like I haven't commentated Apex Legends for far too long, but now we do have the opportunity to jump back onto Storm Point, and ALGS Championships with me and Dan became the Storm Point, sensations. It would seem like every map that we were casting was Storm Point. So we should have a pretty good idea of how things are going to work out here. But I'm always interested to see, even though we saw, a couple of groups going up against each other last week, are any of these teams going to be fighting for any of those early POIs? Are we going to see a bit of contesting going down, or is everybody going to find themselves a little bit of a safe home? From the looks of things at the moment, it looks like everybody's got somewhere to play and everyone is going to look comfortable. But saying that, you can see that Ascend in the middle map, you're having a little bit of a poke battle, but it looks like that is going to be pretty safe. Both teams taking either side of the center zone, and everyone, sadly for the viewers and sadly for me, of course, and you, John, who love a little bit of early contesting going on, looks like everyone's comfortable and everyone's looking pretty safe.
Yeah, and we'll actually see a Western zone here, and you're right, people are fairly comfortable. Looks like Ember's is going to dip out and reset. They hit the launch cannon, and as a result of that, you're spot on. No 50-50s today, no early fights we saw in North America, and I believe in EU, a little bit of contention early, as obviously here's the interesting thing about Pro League, right? There's 3 groups, not 2. So every single week you're playing against a different lobby, which means, well, drop spots will change. Some people are going to have to flex. Some people are going to have to fight over positions, and there's not necessarily a free POI for everybody. So this lobby looks like everyone has mutually agreed. No early contention. Scar is going to drop launch site. They'll be well looted. One of the best loot spots on this map. And by the way, Mark, Storm Point Sensations, or SPS, should become your new in-game crew name. I'm just saying.
It's not a bad idea. Like I got to say as well, a few of the pros in this lobby, I'm not calling you out, but I've put you on your back in the last week or so in the ranked playlist. So if I do see any names that pop out, don't worry, I'll be calling you out. But I think it's going to be a very interesting game, especially when we've looked at some of the end circles that we saw from week 1. I know that Dan was doing a lot of research on it, and it seems like a quick rotation essentially brings success on either map at the moment. It seems like if you can get into an early good position, you usually are able to close a game out. So for Ascend, who are middle map at the moment, they're taking their time to loot, and this is the team that typically doesn't like to play that way. They like to play on the edge, play for kills, and be extremely aggressive. The problem with that, as we know, John, is it only takes one fight to go wrong, and all of a sudden you can find yourself with not a huge amount of points. But momentum can also be gained for a team like Ascend, and I feel like game 1, game 2 for a team like this is so vital for them to win an early fight just to get that momentum and that kind of that flow state in their fighting down.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's interesting. You're right. Ascend is always historically known to actually be a caustic edge team, which is pretty rare. Typically, you see caustic teams kind of bunkering down and playing in early zone, but they've changed their playstyle a bit. They're running Watson and Newcastle. They dropped Jurassic Park very central to the map, and they actually early rotate and like to get positioning now, which is a different playstyle for them. Obviously, Kashera, one of the better IGLs we have in EU, is not afraid to adapt, as we're going to see a contention between Ember and I believe the team that dropped in Antenna, which typically is Ascend, but it looks like Ascend dropping Jurassic Park this time around based on the lobby split.
It looked like they're making their rotation through. I think that Ascend's just outside of Command Center middle map, so not too far for them to go. But high peak at the moment. I don't think they're just being having a little bit of trouble actually from the team who are doing some damage with the charge rifles. Also, those darn doggies just nipping away at the ankles in Jurassic Park here that are causing a few problems. And it's amazing how that can slow you down on a rotation. You just get nipped on the heels, and it's all of a sudden I've got to turn around and deal with this thing before it really starts to have an influence. The Prowler this time will be dealt with, but again, just a couple of little nibbles on the ankles cost you a shield. So it's so annoying. Like, trust me, we've all been there, right? You're just trying to move, you're trying to rotate, and all of a sudden you can just hear a barking, and it's like, come on, man, just let me have a few moments to myself here.
But then it drops you a purple light mag, and all is okay in life.
That's
like,
fair.
Okay, word from the one
Giveth
shield
and taketh, I guess, yeah.
Exactly, unless you are this squad here with all gray shields and Ember. But hey, I'm just going to be honest with you, Mark. I'm very upset that you called it Jurassic Park, but then proceeded to call them doggies. If you're going to call it Jurassic Park, we got to commit to the dinosaur references, my friend.
Hey, man, look, we all know that dogs grow up to be dinosaurs. It's a fact of life, okay? It's just nobody can ever debate that. But talking about the circle, taking our attention away from evolution and how it does and doesn't work, we should probably talk about where we're going here on Storm Point. And it looks like the mill is probably going to be where we're going, maybe even down Beast, where we could see this end zone going. You can see that on the Trident in the moment is Ascend, who have followed for a fair bit of time here. So you can see that they've tried to make a move to the very western edge of Storm Point here to try and fight their way in, clear their backs, and it's always a solid idea to do. But you can already see a couple of teams, as you would expect, inside of Mill, making them second think about, or take a second thought, I should say, about how they want to approach this. So for Ascend at the moment, this is spot A complete. Now they're going to see if they can pick up any KP on the edge, hold some teams out, or maybe a couple of fights break out, they can 3P and move into a slightly stronger looking position.
I just want to point out, look how fast this rotation came. I mentioned to the point I made earlier about how they changed their playstyle to become an early rotate, bunker down team with Watson and Newcastle. They're already at the far west side of the map, despite dropping eastern right next to central in Jurassic Park. So a quick rotation from Ascend. We saw one team on top of Mill poking and prodding. We have to assume that's likely going to be Gaiman. They drop over in Mill. They probably are staying put. They like to do that in Lava Siphon. But here comes our first fight of the game.
Yeah, this is going to be the first fight, and this is going to be a clean wipe as well. You can see Totem Esports moving in. Unfortunately, high peak, you're going to have to just collect your bodies and collect those death boxes and think about game number 2, because you can see it was already an awkward looking game for them. They early rotate that they tried to make through Jurassic Park. They already took damage from Ascend, but now Toma haven't overextended maybe for this fight, are inviting pressure on themselves. It's Fire Beavers, some of the most dangerous players in the whole of the Apex Legends Global Series, who are going to take 2 down, 1 player left. He's taken care of as well, and Fire Beavers do what they do best, and that is get up on that high ground, rain down fire, and pick up some KP alongside it.
Clean wipe for FB. It is so much fun to watch this roster. CIS team, very similar to what we saw out of Team Empire, Ranches & Co. last year. This is a team that's not afraid to play aggressive, and we see it right there. They hear an opportunity to third party, and despite this being a pro lobby where you don't see third parties happen as often as you do in ranked, they are still not afraid to push. Great job from OJ Rain, Taskmaster, and 9 Imps. And just as soon as we thought this Reply Totem team with their debut with Jazaz alongside of Maz, aka Jazz alongside of Maze, it's awesome to see what they can accomplish with this new roster. They get taken up by Fire Beavers right after. So Jazaz joins this team for Brit, playing alongside the Italian and French squad. Jay Savage no longer on the team, but they'll have to wait for game number 2 for a chance to shine in their debut.
Now, Ascend have made their move in. You can see there was a little opportunity, a little window open for them to move in now to this northern building inside of the mill. And the wonderful thing for them with their setup and with their comp is that they can now just take this area and have those Watson fences down, as well as the Newcastle for kind of a secondary line of defense if they need to. So all the doors, which they had to worry about previously, now they've got those Watson fences down. They only have to worry about the co-inhabitants. They also have Seer here, Phoenix Legacy, who are the team who are also co-sharing with them to try and give them that information. They'll know that that team is across from them. So at the moment, it's a case of, are either team going to get initial damage down? And even if they do they want to push off it, or are they happy to coexist here and wait for that end game?
Phoenix Legacy placed 18th in their first game on Sunday, so they're going to look to have a better day today if they possibly can. But they showed some moments of greatness. They showed some really, really good rotations, got caught in a few fights that were not favorable, and I'm sure they learned from their mistakes. Speaking of Jay Savage, kudos to our OBS team. They're going to give us a chance to tell this story. No longer playing with Reply Totem, or now they go as Totem Esports. That was one of the longer-lasting teams in competitive Apex. Found themselves a lot of success, but always kind of floated in the mid-tier. I think a roster change was healthy on both sides. It's Jay Savage now playing with Digi and Row on Forge, formerly known as 4 Gang, but we have ourselves a Gaiman fight right in the no-name village west of Mill.
We do indeed. And I did notice in the feed as well that Hardeki did manage to pick up a knock or maybe even a finish. So that might be 1 KP already for GG, who are inside of this building. But you can also see there's a couple of teams looking to coexist. And it is actually going to be GG who are still fighting down on this low ground. They're going to be wiped. And even though there might be a third-party opportunity, it won't be a healthy one. Because the fact, look how healthy that Gaming Gladiators are after that fight. Nobody went down. Nobody really took damage. A couple of armor swaps come in, but it was so clean and it was so quick that Hardek has even been able to pick up his original Evo shield and use the time to get that back up. So using those shield cells is going to get him back up to purple. A perfect fight and a perfect result coming in for them.
And I'm a bit surprised. Nightmare's above them, a team that's not afraid to play aggressive, that they didn't take the opportunity to third party and wipe Gaimin. So kind of a blessing for Gaimin Gladiators right now that they did not get pushed by Nightmares, who are right above them right now. I like the change though. Take a look. Gaimin is no longer running Newcastle. Back to Seer and Horizon, or maybe it was a Valk alongside a Watson pick. So I was a little critical of Gaimin, saying, look, the Newcastle and Watson pick for Gaimin just doesn't fit their play style. They're a team that likes to free flow, play for kills, play out in the open, play a little more edge. They instead were running Watson and Newcastle, the kind of flavor of the month right now that 100 Thieves started in NA, and it just didn't seem to fit the way that they play. I like the change to put Hardeki on Seer and let him get a little more loose.
Yeah, I like the idea of just having a little bit more offensive utility, right? Give them information. Give them, the tools to win fights. They're going to win them. You know, if there was no abilities in the game, then Gaming Gladiators would win most of the gunfights that they were in just because they are that mechanically talented. But for now, as we kind of see about a minute and 10 seconds or so until round 2 starts to close, 17 squads still alive. So looks like everyone is pretty comfortable for now. Obviously, we do have a long way to go in this first game, but Gaming Gladiators, you would have to say this spot that they're in is a very, very strong spot, not just for now, but towards the end game as well, because they can poke, they can prod, they've got the triple take in the hands of Artico. They might be going towards this end game with full red armors and great position alongside it as well.
Trying to take a moment to say kudos to our boy Gaskin, who'll be joining you for the cast in game number 2, and despite not casting, still contributing. He said with the circle is heading, keep an eye on these teams based on where they drop, but for now, hold that thought. We got ourselves a fight.
Yeah, we do indeed. And it's Ascend, the team who are co-inhabiting at the moment. Looking like they've got some nosy neighbors. They've already lost post-kill, and unfortunately for him as well, he's going to be not just knocked, but also taken down into the death box. But Phoenix Legacy cannot win the fight. It looked like they got that first knock initially, but it might have actually been a trade. And at the end of it, Ascend come out on top. The only question is now, is there a mobile beacon about? Can they get post-kill back into this game? Or will it be Ascend just having to be happy with the KP they picked up and having to play this game out as a duo? But the fight that we were expecting to see, were they going to co-inhabit? Were they going to fight? Well, we got the result from that, and it's Ascend who came out on top.
I love this. Fire Beavers, again, CIS team comp, similar to what we saw from Ranches and Team Empire, playing Bangalore. Aggressive edge comp. They want to stay on edge, and they want to take this fight with start a fight. Here we go. It's going to be the first knock coming through for Blast, the Brit, former member of Invictus Gaming. We'll see if they can capitalize on that first knock. The Bangalore ult's going to buy them some time, and that will be enough to get the res. The Bangalore smoke keeps them alive as well. So again, don't sleep on Bangalore as a competitively viable legend. For the longest time, it was only Shiv, rock and bang, but he was ahead of his time, perhaps. Shout out to Shiv. Shout out to all Bangalore mains, fellow Bangalore mains out there. I like to rock some Bangalore rank.
Yeah, who doesn't? I think Bangalore, certainly on these more open maps, has become a real viable option with the fact that, you know, you've got this cover, you can reset, you can smoke, you can get reses, you can do all that good stuff. Also, the ultimate, very underutilized in my opinion, especially even in ranked games. You know, you can create so much distance. It's a pretty quick A to B before the explosions actually come in, and you can create a little bit of distance and separation from those teams who are trying to push. So Fire Beavers, unfortunately, even though they managed to stay alive, they did lose one player. And also shout out to the knock coming in as well. The longbow back in the play, and I know that Niceweek's probably watching right now. He's probably got a big smile on his face seeing that.
You know, Wig likes himself some longbow play. Here we go though. V2 Joke, fellow French, is going to be finding themselves in a slight advantage over their CIS counterparts. A 3v2 opportunity for them, rocking the default Seer, Valk, Horizon team composition. Every team seems to, in NA especially, seems to be rocking that default comp, TSM and the likes. And in EU, well, we see a lot more bold team compositions. We see a lot more Crypto. We see some Bangalore. We've seen, you know, a lot of Watson, a lot of Newcastle. We've seen some Lifeline. Shout out to EU for trying to push the meta a little bit forward. As we take a look at heroes here, speaking of French, it's going to be ASCII and Robin.
At the moment, they're safe inside of that next zone. You can see they're just trying to make sure that the zone is going to close behind them and that they don't have to worry too much about things. Aski's kind of been tasked with that. Now turns his attention forward, but you can see he's always worried that a team might come in on that flank, especially if they see a knock go down or they hear this team fight. So they have to be extremely careful in this position, that they don't overextend, that they just hold down this position. But it's heroes who are pressuring and trying to force their way into zone, which they've managed to do. And this is the beauty of having, of course, the ultimate that comes in from Newcastle. You can create that temporary little bit of cover. You can poke, you can prod, and then off the back of that, you might have the opportunity to push. So heroes here set up for success, but on the back of that, you can also see, I'm going to be very careful, Aurora are also pressurizing. So there's 3 different teams in this situation kind of overlooking each other, poking and prodding, and if any of them take significant damage, you could see a lot of teams all of a sudden fall and players fall out this lobby.
And you pronounced it so well, Aurora. I'm so proud of you, Mark. Absolutely crushed it. But you're spot on. This is a fight that you don't want to take unless you can take it clean, unless you can get a clean knock and then ape real fast, because you'll get third party instantly. Here comes the Newcastle second ultimate, perhaps an ultimate accelerant that gave them that back. The Watson pylon goes down, but they're under duress from afar, and it looks like Scars is going to get knocked into the hands of Game Ward. Again, the team of young rookies in YOLO and Aimbot, they're going to take out Scars, the veterans. A great start for Game Ward at the top right of your screen as all eyes shift now to Heroes. This is exactly what you hinted at, Mark, the third party coming through.
Yeah, this is what they're worried about, right? The team just backing up, coming around that corner, and Heroes doing what they can at the moment. But Robin, unfortunately, even with a couple of knockdown shields, even with the ultimate down from Newcastle, you just get the feeling that it's not going to be too much time left alive. As Malawan tries to move in now just to finish off the damage that was done. Now he's going to use the Q. He's going to be able to get the reset maybe on the hills, and there it is. Of course, Heroes eliminated. They were in a tough spot there, just sandwiched between a couple of teams, and now Aurora, having cleared their backs, dealt with the team. Heroes that was behind them now have to turn their attention forward because they've got 1 minute and 30 seconds to move in towards that zone. The difficulty for them, they've got no Valkyrie. So this is going to be a very tough move for them. It's going to have to be the brute force approach. They're going to have to fight. They're going to have to try and take some teams down.
That's right. Well played, Aurora. And welcome back, Ranches and Cleve, the duo, former Team Empire to the Apex Legends Global Series. We missed you at ALGS Champs after being really the Cinderella team in so many ways at the Split 2 playoffs in Sweden. They performed so well, a top finish for them. Aurora has been looking great for now, but look, let's jump into a listen-in. Not going to be an English-speaking listen-in, which we love it. We're here for the CIS. Let's jump into a listen-in with Team Aurora.
Скажите, когда к вам идти?
Да, надо будет, наверное, на тачке ехать, потому что просто поджиматься, потому что сейчас тут все занято.
Куда ты хочешь? Под хату поджаться?
Под хату. Либо вообще туда встать сразу, не вариант? Не, мне
А
кажется,
там
у нас
нету
такая-
сейва, там 0 сейва.
Убрали, да, эту хуйню?
Да. На крыше стоят, контролят нас. Нам очень больно будет, если мы на тачке поедем.
Уверен? Надо, может, распекать их?
Но если
Я иду
распекаем...
за скаут, я иду за скаут, пикай. Малик, почекай спину.
Хорошо.
Иногда.
Просто душите их, душите. Просто под
Крыш
какой-то
ты,
пик.
да? Дал 40.
Да, не мешает, пиздец.
Подаю чек ТП.
Аккуратно, дай секунду.
250.
Пикайте, пожалуйста, пикайте.
Кракнул. Еще сломал одного.
Еще урон даю.
Еще дал урон.
Там снизу скат, вот это машина. Ой, что за хуйня?
If you can you still hear us,
Машину
Production?
садите, чтобы как на долбоёбика поедем.
Где раньше?
Вы уверены, что вдалеке нет?
Я не знаю. Я уверен, на хоть что угодно, хоть любого ебать. Давай сюрик есть. Я ультанул, 0 больших банок. Ультанул, все. Поехали нахуй!
Стой! Пожалуйста, блядь, выпусти! Сломайте, ребят, ну!
Ко мне, подойди!
Там снизу сквад, не торопитесь. Ой, ебаная дам.
Ко мне подойди. О, сзади!
Сломал?
Стоп, бери, хорош, стой!
Живи, не стой! У меня свап есть сзади.
Добейте!
Well, I have no idea what they're saying, Mark, but it sounds like the world is falling apart right now for Maliwan as he is fighting an absolute war. Gonna get the shield swap, though, and Maliwan still alive. Game Ward eliminated at the hands of the Gaiman Gladiators. We have 8 squads remaining.
We do indeed. Now, I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I saw a Trident driving into a fence. It's all kicking off, and it's only game 1. Watson maybe introducing herself back into competitive Apex in a way that the Tridents do not like. But even though we've just learned that the Trident is electric-based and it's going to go down in a way that maybe people didn't expect, expect. It's going to be Foot Esports on the edge of zone at the moment who are doing some fighting. They take down Pioneers. So KCP will fall and Aurora also eliminated. And from about 15 teams, we've gone down to 6. That is quite a significant change of all these teams as they try and force their way into that zone.
That's right. So Aurora gets 8th, KCP gets 7th as FUT Esports looking solid. 6 points to their name already. They're going to have to make a pretty tough rotation. Look at the zone at the top left of your screen. It's pulling all the way into a lot of no man's land. Beach and nothing more. Only a tiny sliver of that building. They're going to get themselves in the Trident, and that'll give them the only cover that they could possibly find out here. And they're going to ape a team. It's going to be a solo. It's going to be a rat, and this should be a clean wipe and a ton of cover for the hands of FUT. They're looking so incredibly good right now. Taylor, the young god.
I mean, this is brilliant from FUT. I mean, there is no cover, pretty much. There's that one building that you can see that GG are in at the moment, but they have just taken essentially a setup that was given to them. There was a Trident down. They took another Trident over. Now they have the other teams wall in front of them, so they now have cover. Everyone else is going to be looking out. Everyone else has to leave this building, John, which means that everybody else is going to be forced to fire and forced to fight. The question is, who is going to be the team that comes out on top? And our FUT Esports just going to watch all of this go down and just pick off so many KP. Nightmare Esports are going to be a team they have to worry about, but for now, FUT Esports are just in a god position.
FUT Esports absolutely have the win condition here, Mark. You are spot on. God spot cover that they just stole from a Newcastle. That was a solo. Turkish Stars and SAF start a fight. Esports eliminated. 3 squads remain. And guess what? 2 of them are fighting each other. FUT just gets to watch and laugh and absolutely dominate right now. His Nightmare's trying to get the final kill on Guyman. It's a 3v3, making a 1v3 GG. FUT Esports on top to kick off their debut in the ALGS.
Oh, you love to see it, right? You love to see a little bit of creativity in those final moments. I mean, I will say this, though. A rough end circle for a lot of these teams.